Liberals of Reddit who were conservative before, or conservatives who were liberal before, what made you change your state of mind?
The state I physically live in. When I lived in California, my friends referred to me as that one conservative guy in the group. Now that I live in Tennessee, I'm frequently called hippie or commie. My political beliefs haven't changed.
Sorts by controversial.
I was conservative in high school, but once I was more aware of the economic effects of certain policies, I became much more liberal. It's fiscally irresponsible not to invest into policies like lead removal, family planning, universal healthcare, and a social safety net because the returns on a population that can produce more. Also, now that I pay taxes, I don't want people dying on the streets. I paid good money for those streets.
Raised fiscally conservative, socially liberal. McCain in 2008 was my first time voting. Started to enjoy doing research and looking at primary sources, then realized that throughout my lifetime the Republican Party didn't really have any fiscally conservative policies, just a far better PR campaign. The concept of small government eludes them if they're the ones in charge, and they only cry for it if they're the minority party.
The realization that kid me was just parroting my conservative parents and taking their word at face value without thinking about it.
I started my political career far to the left, the just fix things phase, then swung to the medium right in college after learning more about fiscal policy, taxes, and business finance economics, the how it's supposed to work phase. Now I'm leaning back towards the center left because the theories don't work. The fact that salaries have remained stagnant for decades while every facet of our lives, physical or digital, are monetized and normal life milestones are being priced out of reach of nearly every American is proof positive that the government in our form of free market capitalism is corrupt and doesn't work. Let alone the comparison of our wages or healthcare to that of Congress, C-suite execs or retired generals sitting on defense contract boards. Now we have these massive funds buying up single-family rentals and houses at 50% or more than their fair market value only to be rented out to what should be new families getting their first home. That's not a problem you can poo-poo away. Just ask Japan how their shrinking population is faring. So in summary, despite some flip-flopping, my current take is somewhere in the center to left until these oligarchical problem is resolved. And it does need to be resolved, or we'll be looking at a beep revolution or dissolution of the country. I wouldn't fight for this country right now either, and I imagine a lot of guys would agree, which also makes this a matter of national defense.
I started traveling. Realized that anyone who labels themselves as Republican or Democrat is just contributing to the hive mind. Real ones accept cultural differences and vote based on policy rather than party and sentiment. I liked Bush. I loved Obama. Then 2016 hit and I don't like anyone.
Raised a Rush Limbaugh conservative, spent my teen years as a little ball of anger. Read Ayn Rand in high school, got an econ degree in a very libertarian school. Spend a few years with a smug the free market will fix everything if we just burn the system to the ground and let it regrow, unhampered look on my face. And then I went to a grad program where I had to interact with people who weren't smug libertarians. TL, doctor, getting out into the world forced me to test my assumptions, and getting to know real people replaced my caricatures with empathy.
I met other people outside my white social upper middle class suburb. I transferred from a college in Shreveport with 1,000 students, mostly white, some black, 0 Asian, most decently well-off families, to one with over 30,000 students of all colors and incomes. Diversity of environment does a lot to create diversity of opinion. There's a reason that college graduates mid-Gen X and younger slew heavily liberal in the US.
Went from liberal to conservative, and now finally to moderate. Even though being moderate is frowned upon these days, both sides have their good and bad, and it's foolish to think that only one side is the good side.
I was really conservative in middle high school just because I'm from a small town in the South and that's all I knew. Then I dug deep into my own personal beliefs, went to college, traveled, and realized a conservative agenda doesn't benefit me or my family. Not to mention I'm not even straight.
I grew up in deep red South with conservative Christian parents. My entire worldview was warped by that. Then at 15 they let me use the internet unhindered and every beep thing I said got me completely obliterated. Like consistently. I got a WoW sub and kicked from my first guild for being a bigoted dickbag since I called gays AIDS-spawning monkeys, and my second guild for saying my parents checked the basketball courts near our house before we moved in to make sure there weren't any black kids. Was the entire internet filled with liberal hippie idiots? My 16 to 18-year-old self thought. Then I fell for furry girls. Ran into some furry porn and was like, oh, beat, this cat chick is hot. Made an account, and again, people weren't too appreciative of my ass backwards ways. I got banned and beep on constantly. That's when I realized, maybe everyone around me personally was the problem. Especially as gay stuff became more normalized and religion became less important. The final clincher was my first Twitter account. I joined a conservative group, and the absolutely insane theories and stuff they were coming up with seemed way stupid compared to the stuff the furry artists I followed were saying. So I swapped to the other side and really studied it. Liberal policies just made sense. I have a friend over in Norway and another in Finland, and socialism isn't scary. If anything, I found myself envious of their positions on stuff like healthcare and minimum wage. This is also around the time I became agnostic. If everything else I learned as a kid was beat bigot speech, who's this God thing I've never felt in my entire life that a large chunk of the world doesn't believe in, and science has basically moved long past. At this point something just snapped. Why do I hate trans people? Why do I think people with pronouns in their profiles are idiots? Why do I think gay marriage shouldn't happen? Why was I ever okay with racism? None of this affects me in any way at all. I shouldn't care, and I really should be supportive of it because it doesn't affect anyone in any bad way if someone wants to be a girl. I needed a reset though, so I just deleted everything online. Deleted my entire history and remade myself as a brand new person essentially. I joined liberal groups and forced myself to understand their positions, and over time I agreed almost 100% with everything. The only thing I'm still on the fence on is trans guys playing female sports. That one still seems a little far-fetched based on our tech right now. Other than that, I'm on the Bernie train. TL, Dr. Blame furry porn and getting wrecked online.
I grew up borderline conservative and just very sheltered in middle-class, white areas. Working in high poverty conditions and spending lots of time with people of color changed my life. It is impossible to believe that poor people are poor because they don't work hard when you see parents working 3 jobs. It's hard to believe racism isn't a big deal when you see institutional racism at work daily. It's hard not to care about people who are not like you when they become real to you. And it's hard not to want to change the world, then, to be more equitable. Or at the very least, see people get their basic needs met.
Leaving the U.S. I was surrounded by conservative ideas my whole life and really knew nothing else. Then I started traveling and eventually moved out of the country. It's amazing how things like healthcare and affordable education aren't even up for debate in most other countries. Now I'm known as the socialist by everyone I know back in the US.
Growing up and learning empathy for those who are not the same as me.
Sort by controversial for best results.
I grew up and formed my own opinions. Before that I was a conservative because my parents were.
In short, I grew up. I was a hardcore libertarian in high school and shortly after. It seemed the most fair, but as I aged and had more experience with people I figured out that it wouldn't work. People are too greedy to be trusted to help out with things that are too big for individuals, like road networks and emergency services. They require everyone to pitch in, and everyone benefits. I've grown more liberal with time as more and more things get added on to the pile of stuff that society really benefits from, but people don't want to fund on their own, like healthcare and social safety nets.
This whole comment section is gonna be conservative to liberal cuss. Everyone's gonna downvote the conservatives. I mean, the top comments are already liberals.
Yes, the 2 political opinions, liberal and conservative.
The idea that the whole country can be run by only 2 different sets of ideas is ridiculous. Why even have red or blue? Why not a whole rainbow of different ideals? Why do we have to separate ourselves into oppositions? Beat bipartisanship.
I was conservative until I saw the 2 parties' proposals on what became the Bush tax cuts. The Dems had lower taxes for the middle class and trickle-down economics don't work.
Great topic, Op. Let's start a discussion. This will be interesting.
Voted Republicans my entire life until Trump.
Not me, but a group of older men at the VA I overheard. Basically they voted for Trump because Obama legalized same-sex marriage.
I am independent because I don't trust either party.
Mga. I still consider myself conservative, but I can't even recognize my party anymore since Trump.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to subscribe to Upvote for the best quality content every day.